Hey, have you ever stopped to ponder what dark secrets might lurk beneath the surface of those warm, friendly smiles in a quintessential Canadian family? Picture this: you're sitting down with me, cradling a steaming double double from Tim Hortons in your hands, the rich aroma of coffee filling the air, as I unravel a tale so chilling it makes a Yellowknife winter feel like a balmy spring day. This isn't just some run of the mill family drama to shrug off, it's a heart pounding descent into a frozen wilderness of snow laden forests, where love morphs into a dangerous obsession, and a seemingly innocent pastry could very well be the last thing you taste before a fatal plunge. Don't dare look away, because when this story ends, you'll be left questioning. Has the darkness truly lifted, or is it lying in wait, biding its time until you let your guard down? So grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and journey with me if you've got the nerve. My name's Emily, and I hail from a quiet little town on the outskirts of Ottawa, a place where winter clamps down like an unrelenting curse, stretching out for months on end, and the only solace comes from the familiar weight of a Tim Hortons cup in your hand. 7 years ago, I tied the knot with Lucas, the man I was convinced was my soulmate, my destiny written in the stars. He was a towering figure, broad-shouldered with a mop of unruly brown hair that always seemed to fall into his hazel eyes, and a smile so warm it could thaw the thickest ice on Lake Rideau after a January freeze. Our life together unfolded like a postcard from a Canadian dream. Cozy evenings glued to the TV watching hockey playoffs, spontaneous weekend getaways to shred the slopes at Mont Tremblant, and tender moments wrapped in each other's arms beside a fireplace that popped and crackled with life. It was perfect, or so I thought. Not everyone saw our happiness through the same rose-tinted lens. Enter Bella, Lucas's older sister, a shadow cast over our bliss from the very start. I'll never forget the first time I laid eyes on Bella. It was a frosty Christmas evening at Lucas's parents' house in Kingston, a good 4 years before we said our vows. The snow was coming down in heavy sheets outside, blanketing the world in white, while inside, the glow of twinkling lights danced across the walls, and the sweet, sticky scent of maple-glazed pastries hung thick in the air. The house buzzed with holiday cheer until Bella stepped into my line of sight. She was leaning against the far wall in the living room, a glass of red wine clutched in her hand, her deep brown eyes locked on me with an intensity that sent a shiver racing down my spine. It wasn't the kind of cold you'd expect from a Canadian December night. This was something else, something sharper, like the glint of a blade catching the light. I mustered a smile, determined to break the ice. "Hi, I'm Emily." Her response was curt, a single nod, her lips pressed into a thin, unyielding line before she turned her back on me. Lucas leaned in close, his breath warm against my ear as he whispered, "She's a bit tough to crack, but give her time. She'll come around, eh?" I wanted to trust him, to chalk it up to a prickly personality that would soften with familiarity. But deep down, in that fleeting moment, I felt a gnawing unease, a premonition, subtle yet insistent, like the distant howl of wind threading through the Laurentian forest right before a storm rolls in. I had no idea then that this icy sensation would soon sharpen into something far more sinister, a threat poised perilously close to my throat. Bella hadn't always been this way, or so Lucas told me when he opened up about their past one quiet night by the fire. She was 3 years his senior, born into a modest, middle-class family in a sleepy suburb of Quebec. Their parents were the salt-of-the-earth type, Dad a carpenter who smelled of sawdust and sweat, Mom a nurse with a gentle touch but a weary smile. Life wasn't a walk in the park for them. Money was tight and the winters were long. When Lucas arrived, Bella, still a child herself, stepped into the role of protector, the fierce big sister who doted on her baby brother with a mix of pride and possession. That dynamic held steady, until tragedy struck. Their mother succumbed to cancer when Bella was just 15, leaving a gaping hole in their family. Their father, unable to cope, drowned his grief in whiskey, turning his back on his kids. Overnight, Bella became everything to Lucas: mother, father, sister, shield. She cooked his meals, scrubbed his clothes clean, and once even bloodied her knuckles scrapping with neighborhood bullies to keep him safe. Lucas's voice softened as he recalled it. She was my rock, the only one I had back then. But that fierce, selfless love didn't age well. It festered, twisting into something darker as the years wore on. As Lucas grew into his own man, Bella couldn't stomach the idea of him slipping beyond her reach. She'd had a taste of romance once, back in her college days, a whirlwind affair with a guy named Mark, who'd swept her off her feet with his charm and promises. She'd loved him with every fibre of her being, but it crashed and burned when Mark walked away, fed up with her suffocating control, her irrational jealousy over his friends. Bella didn't see her own flaws. Instead, she pointed the finger at Lucas, insisting he'd pulled her focus, distracted her from holding on to her true love. From that moment, she made a silent vow no one would ever pry Lucas from her grip again. And then I waltzed into the picture, her ultimate adversary, the thief she'd never forgive. The cracks in Bella's facade started showing the moment Lucas and I began dating. I remember one winter night vividly. We'd driven out to his dad's place for a family dinner, a weathered log cabin perched on the banks of the St. Lawrence River, its wooden walls creaking under the weight of a fresh snowfall. I'd spent hours that afternoon baking a batch of pastries, my hands dusted with flour, hoping to make a good impression. I set the tray down on the table with a shy smile, but Bella barely spared it a glance. Halfway through the meal, as the clink of cutlery filled the silence, she spoke up, her voice cutting through the chatter like a shard of ice. "Lucas, you still remember Emily, not this Emily, mind you, but the old one? That lawyer you were mad about? If you hadn't ditched her, you'd probably be married to some high-class gal in Toronto by now." The room went deathly quiet. My cheeks burned, a flush creeping up my neck as my hands shook around my water glass. Lucas set his knife down with a deliberate thud, his tone frigid. "What are you playing at, Bella?" She shrugged, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Just stating facts. We all know you could do better than this." I swallowed hard, forcing down the lump of shame in my throat, but a seed of doubt took root. This wasn't just sibling loyalty. This was a calculated strike, a warning shot across my bow. That dinner set the tone for what was to come. Bella's attacks didn't stop. They grew sharper, more insidious, cloaked in a veneer of casual conversation. Every family gathering became a battleground. Easter brunches, Canada Day barbecues, you name it. She'd weave tales of Lucas's exes into every chat, painting me as a pale imitation of the women he'd once loved. One humid summer afternoon, as we flipped burgers in the Muskoka backyard, smoke curling into the sky, she piped up. "Heard Sophie just snagged a house in Vancouver, Lucas. If you'd stuck with her, you'd be living in a mansion by now, eh?" I shot a glance at Lucas, silently pleading for him to push back. He squeezed my hand under the table, his voice low. "Don't let her get to you, love." But how could I not? Each barb from Bella was a splinter under my skin, chipping away at my confidence, my place in his world. Then came the night that tipped the scales from unease to outright alarm. I'd posted a photo on Instagram, Lucas and me wrapped in a tight embrace by Lake Ontario, the water shimmering under a golden sunset. The caption was simple: "A perfect day with my man." Barely 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your man? You sure about that? Do you even know what he gets up to when you're not there?" A chill gripped me, my fingers hovering over the screen. I tried to reply, but the number blocked me instantly. I showed it to Lucas, my voice trembling. "What is this?" He furrowed his brow, jaw tight. Sounds like Bella. She's got a pile of burner sims she uses to mess with people. I shivered, wrapping my arms around myself. This wasn't petty rivalry anymore, this was surveillance, a shadow creeping closer with every step. Lucas popped the question on a bitter cold night in Quebec City, a memory etched in my mind like a scene from a snow globe. We were strolling through the old town, the cobblestone streets blanketed in fresh powder, when he dropped to one knee in the middle of a deserted square. The golden glow of Chateau Frontenac spilled over us, lighting up the ring in his hand as he asked, "Emily, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my face, freezing on my cheeks as I nodded over and over. It was the pinnacle of my happiness until Bella got wind of it. She didn't send a single word of congratulations. Instead, she fired off a text to Lucas that I glimpsed on his phone later that night. "You've always belonged to me. How could you do this to me?" Reading it felt like a bucket of ice water dumped over my head, dousing the warmth of that magical moment. Lucas sighed, rubbing his temples. "She's just reeling. She'll come around, eh?" But I couldn't shake the image of her eyes from our last meeting, glacial, vacant, predatory, like a wolf circling its next meal. Our wedding day dawned crisp and clear, a winter morning at Niagara Falls that sparkled with promise. Snowflakes drifted lazily from the sky, dusting the ground as I stepped into my white gown, my heart swelling with joy. The ceremony was a blur of laughter and vows, Lucas standing at the altar looking like every dream I'd ever had come to life. But then Bella arrived, and the air shifted. Every guest in the hall seemed to catch their breath in unison. She swept in wearing a floor-length black dress, stark and severe, cloaking her from neck to ankles, like she was attending a wake, not a wedding. Lucas's mom leaned over, her voice a hushed gasp. "Heaven's sake, what's that girl thinking?" Bella moved through the crowd with deliberate slowness, her eyes glinting like frost-covered steel. She clasped hands with guests, her voice a mournful sigh. "I've lost my brother. Lucas isn't mine anymore." Some shot me pitying glances, others shifted uncomfortably, muttering under their breath. As Lucas and I exchanged our vows, Bella's sobs pierced the air, not soft tears of joy, but wrenching, guttural cries that sounded like her soul was shattering. I gripped Lucas's hands tighter, willing myself to block her out, but my pulse thundered in my ears. At the reception, she escalated. She planted herself in the center of the dance floor, her voice rising over the music. "I raised Lucas for years, poured my life into him, and now he picks her." Lucas's patience snapped. He grabbed her arm, dragging her to a corner. "What the hell's wrong with you? This is my day." Bella's eyes locked on his, her voice quaking. "You'll regret this, Lucas. She doesn't deserve you." I stood frozen, my hands trembling around my glass of Canadian wine, a creeping dread settling into my bones like a shadow I couldn't shake. Lucas pulled me close, his breath warm against my hair. "Don't worry, she won't do anything." But I wasn't convinced. Her words rang in my ears all night, a sinister echo like the wind tearing through the trees before a blizzard buries everything in sight. Fast forward 4 years, marriage had settled into a comfortable rhythm, and then came the news that lit up our world. I was pregnant. We chose Lucas's birthday party at his dad's Muskoka retreat to share the joy, a cozy log cabin nestled among towering pines. The fireplace roared, casting flickering shadows on the walls, and the air was thick with the scent of maple pastries fresh from the oven. I stood up, beaming. "We're going to have a baby!" The room exploded with cheers. Lucas's mum enveloped me in a bear hug. His dad clapped him on the back. "Well done, son. You're officially trapped now, eh?" "But Bella?" She didn't move. She stood rooted to the spot, her eyes widening as if she'd seen a spectre rise from the floorboards. Her lips clamped shut, her fists balled at her sides. Then, without a word, she spun on her heel and stormed out, the door banging shut behind her, leaving a frigid void in the toasty room. I stared after her. a knot of dread tightening in my chest. Lucas brushed it off, his voice soft. She just needs time to process. But a whisper in my mind disagreed. She's brewing something. 3 nights later, that whisper turned into a scream. It was well past midnight, the wind howling outside our little house, when a furious pounding shook the front door. Lucas bolted upright, stumbling to answer it. "Bella? What's going on?" She shoved past him, her coat dusted with snow, and fixed me with a stare that burned with fury. "You did this to hurt me, didn't you?" I blinked, bewildered. "What are you talking about?" Bella's voice cracked, tears spilling down her face. "You know I've been trying to have a kid for a whole year. You know I lost one miscarried, and you pick now to rub your happiness in my face. You want to crush me." My mouth fell open. "I had no idea. Don't lie to me," she shrieked, her words splintering like glass. Lucas stepped between us, his hand firm on her shoulder. "Bella, you're losing it. This is our life, our news. It's got nothing to do with you." She whirled on him, betrayal flashing in her eyes. "Nothing to do with me? You're my brother. You're supposed to stand by me." Lucas's tone hardened. "What do you expect me to do? Tell Emily to undo her pregnancy?" Bella's hands clenched tighter, and then she turned to me, a strange, menacing spark flickering in her gaze. "You'll pay for this." She stormed out, the door slamming with a force that rattled the windows. Lucas wrapped me in his arms, murmuring, "Don't stress, she's just upset." But my body wouldn't stop shaking. Her threat hung in the air, a phantom blade dangling just above my neck. The real turning point came at Lucas's birthday party a few weeks later, a day seared into my memory forever. The cabin was alive with warmth, the chatter of family mingling with the sizzle of meat on the grill outside, the smoky aroma drifting through the open windows. Bella arrived late, her face plastered with a smile so polished it screamed artificial. "Happy birthday, little brother." She threw her arms around Lucas, then pivoted to me. "I want to bury the hatchet, Emily. I'm sorry for how I've been." I met her gaze, silent, searching for the lie. Lucas nodded, hopeful. "Thanks, Bella." I'd like things to settle down, but I couldn't buy it. There was a glint in her eyes unsettling, like the flash of headlights cutting through a pitch-black night. Halfway through the party, Bella made her move. She approached with a tray of pastries, her voice syrupy. "I baked these just for you, Emily. A little congrats on the mom-to-be thing, eh?" She smiled, but her hands betrayed her, trembling ever so slightly as she handed me the tray. I took it, my fingers brushing the cool ceramic, a wave of nausea rolling through me not from pregnancy but from instinct, like the crack of ice underfoot on a frozen lake, warning you to turn back. Before I could lift a piece to my lips, Ryan, Bella's husband, a burly lumberjack-built guy with a booming laugh, cut in. "Whoa, those look amazing. I'm claiming first dibs." He snatched the tray from me, shoving a hefty bite into his mouth with a grin. Bella went rigid, her eyes darting, her face draining of colour. 3 minutes ticked by, then Ryan hit the floor, doubled over, retching violently. The room dissolved into pandemonium. "Call 911!" someone bellowed. He convulsed, clutching his gut, his eyes rolling back to whites. I spun to Bella. She stood like a statue, fists tight, her expression a mix of terror and something else, something colder, the panic of exposure. The police swarmed in, tested the pastries, and confirmed the worst: rat poison, a lethal dose for an adult. Bella crumpled when they cornered her, tears streaming. "I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted her out of the picture for a bit." But her composure shattered. She lunged at me, claws out, screaming, "You took Lucas from me! You destroyed everything!" Lucas yanked her back, but she fought like a wild animal, hair flying, eyes blazing. "I'll kill you! I'll end you right here!" It took 2 officers and a pair of handcuffs to subdue her. Bella's shrieks ricocheted off the cabin walls, a feral howl that could have belonged to a wolf lost in the wilderness. I collapsed into Lucas's arms, my heart hammering against my ribs. She'd crossed a line no one could pull her back from, and now her fate was sealed. Bella got 10 years behind bars. The trial in Ottawa was a formality, security footage, witness accounts, and lab results stacked an ironclad case against her. As they led her away in chains, she twisted to face me, her voice a venomous hiss. "This isn't done, Emily." A chill slithered down my spine. Lucas tightened his grip on me. "She's powerless now. Don't let it get to you." Months later, I gave birth to our daughter Maple, a name as sweet and Canadian as the syrup we drizzle on pancakes. Life smoothed out into a gentle rhythm. Lazy mornings sipping coffee, crisp afternoons gliding across the frozen lake with skates slicing through the ice. But every so often, when I peer out the window at snow piling high against the glass, Bella's face swims into view, those eyes, frigid, unhinged, brimming with a hatred that time hasn't dulled. One stormy winter night, as I hummed Maple to sleep in her crib, the phone jolted me awake with its shrill ring. An unknown number glowed on the screen. I answered, my voice tentative. "Hello?" Nothing but a long, deliberate breath came through, cold, heavy, like the wind tearing through a forest in the dead of night. Then the line went dead. Lucas stirred beside me. "Who was it, hon?" I forced a shaky smile. "Wrong number, eh?" But my gut churned with doubt. Bella's locked away, miles and miles from here, her hands bound by steel and concrete. Yet that chill she sparked in me from day one lingers, an unshakable frost that clings to my bones. Has she really surrendered her vendetta? Or out there, in the endless dark of a Canadian winter, is another knife being honed, its edge gleaming, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? So, did this tale send a shiver down your spine? Do you reckon Bella's finished her game, or is she out there, scheming in silence for one last devastating twist? Drop your thoughts below. I'm dying to know what you make of it.